And hello, hello, hello. We are here again and out of the mud in downtown Flint. And tonight we're presenting Connected and Protected with your host, Dehru Mitchell. And today's title is What's Important to You? And here's Dehru.
Thank you. First of all, I want to give credits and accolades to the producers and presenters of Out of the Mud Productions, James Mayfield, the greatest Mayfield, George Grundy, and Larry Lott, for giving voice to people, giving people the ability to voice whatever they want to put into the public arena. This brings me to the point where I asked the question, what's important to you? Mainly because the biggest part of our coming together would be on those matters that are the most important to you. To give light to a situation that is kind of very dark because we've been occluded. That means barred from having a voice in our own situation because we didn't know that the situation actually existed to the extent that it does. In most factions, that is to say, in most parts that we have a part in, we're scattered, separated, we're individualized to the extent that now we don't see how to be cohesive with each other. We don't see how to join together. You know, how to join together, how to band together, how to have one point that we are all unified in. And to that extent, I want it to be understood that we have to give ourselves permission to join together, to have one point of unity that we all agree on. And for me, that part is, what do we own? Where are we at in the production and maintenance of ourselves in this country? Now, in all of my research and all of the things that I've sought to understand, I have very little ability to give you from history to now the fullness of what we're up against. But it's a minute situation if you look at it at the basis of is what we do that takes us where we want to go. I've given myself a wide range of research to look at the condition that we're in as a people because we didn't get educated on the basis that we could do anything for ourselves. We were we were told in oh so many ways that whatever you do belongs to somebody else. That means all of the things that we came up with was considered not ours. It was whoever we were under in a point.
State heavy perspective. It sounds like you're feeling a bit disconnected from your impact.
Can you turn this off? It was a matter of someone else having the ownership of you. Someone else coming in and telling you you're not who you think you are. You never were, but at the same time, you're the epitome of what they commence to duplicate for themselves. Everything in this country was pre-made by you as a people. All of government that is now existing as it is being dismantled, to my understanding, was formulated off of what was here before they got here. And by they, I mean those who came to this land, Turtle Island, if you must, and took the ability of the people of the land to govern themselves and arranged a government over them. Now, I not only see it, feel it, and understand it, but I also want it to go back to its ability to be reversed and reestablished by us for us. It's no simple thing, but it's as simple as us doing what we need to do for us. That's like disregard their ability to enforce their overall desire to keep us as underlings. I looked into our ability to govern ourselves. And from my understanding, we had a form of government before they came that was basically considered a matriarchy, where even though the man was the head of the house for protection and production, the women ran the house as far as making everything go smooth, educating the children in the ways of the people of the land that they occupied. And the, you could say, philosophy or the thought patterns that made us all get along in a manner that we understood ourselves. And that joining of ourselves, we left room, we left room for inviting others in. And that, I would say, was a major catastrophe, truthfully. Because we opened our arms to them and they brought all of their deceit and deception with them, saying that they were here because they had no place else to be. And that they were only making room for themselves in a manner which they would govern themselves, but never saying that they were governing us as a means to govern themselves. We can see that quite clearly now. Everything flows up and very little trickles back down. I was amazed to find how much genius we had as far as business transactions, and business acceptance of each other because we bartered. Some had others. Some had the ability to gather together and then dispense. And in those manners, we built business from the West Coast to the East Coast, from north to south. and then in a circle because it all revolved around a current of the sea, which they invaded, which they came on as an invasion. Quite plainly, Malcolm said it. Plymouth Rock didn't land on us. It did, but they crashed into Plymouth Rock and claimed that we crashed the land into their ship, which gave them the right to everything. They brought a they brought formulas. They considered legislation, and they engulfed the total land of Turtle Island in it and began to call it America. Up until then, it was territories, and those territories had boundaries clearly set and defined, and people that were in them living in a manner consistently productive to them. When they came, that was all over with. From fur trading to any other aboriginal manner in which people lived. And they gave us very little ability to say this was ours because they claimed it all. Then they wrote it up and made it and presented it as theirs without anyone being able to refute it because they had different languages and different ways of stating that it was theirs. We had no ability to discredit until we found out how to understand them and understood what they did. We found those, let's just say, treaties and all of those scrolls and all of those writings and all of the things that they brought here that gave them authority to do whatever they decided they wanted to do. And then they brought the guns with them that made them the force that we couldn't reckon with. So we subjected ourselves to being under them for the sake of survival and the ability to reproduce, which we have to the extent that now we are a force to be reckoned with, not only in this land, but all around the world. Because they came in, they did whatever they were going to do, wherever they were going to do it. And they succeeded to the extent that at the time they set up whatever they wanted to set up and make it viable and profitable for them. But as time has gone on, and as you well know, we have outpopulated them. And whatever didn't make sense to us as being a people who had to take care of ourselves, we kind of have readjusted now to say, well, we can take care of ourselves. And we're going to take care of ourselves. And basically, that leaves little room for you to be in our way to stop us from taking care of ourselves. Now, I don't know, as I said, what's important to you, but I do feel for myself, and I think I can speak for a few others, that our authority rests in our ability to understand they can no longer continuously punish us, imprison us, and give us a pacification notice that as long as you accept it, we'll let you be. Because there are many ways now that we have an understanding of ourselves to say, hey, we didn't accept it. We've never accepted it. We've always been in conflict with it. Y'all want to call it war, but we'll just say conflict. And we have educated ourselves enough to know that none of the positions you stand on our overstanding, our overstanding of your understanding. Make that a little clearer. You're in no position now to continuously tell us that you have the upper hand. Because anytime we stop doing as we have always done for your sakes and begin to do what we need to do for our sakes, you begin to dwindle in your ability to force us to do anything. And then we have the ability to self govern, where it may just start with the family, then the community, then the cities, and then the states, and then the whole of the continent of Turtle Island. Because in reestablishing ourselves as the people of the land, and we, the people, have the ability to do what we need to do for ourselves, putting back the system that gave us a place in this world amongst all the other places in this world where we were a viable entity to be a supplier of our needs, and in that meeting our needs, we had an abundance to assist others in meeting their needs, which they wiped out, seeing as how they only wanted to meet their needs. They didn't care until it hit home as to what they could no longer subject their own people to subject us to. Then they gave up certain amenities. You can call it social service, welfare, whatever, whatever, wherever. But it was meant for them. We just got the face of it, saying that we were begging for it when they actually needed it. Because it's all flowed to the top, they left very little at the bottom. They were eating crusts of breads and drinking water while we were still in the field growing our food, hunting our food, and having our food, which made them obscenely envious, jealous, and predictably angry. So much so that they took those very same abilities from us by destroying land, by killing off animals, and then importing back some that we were very unfamiliar with, and the ways and means to take care of them. Yeah. Even though we had done it with our natural animals, they brought unnatural species here. And they knew that we would also know how to take care of those breeds and species and flourish with them. So they cordoned them off. They called it cattle ranching and sheep herding and so on and so forth. But we had all of that before they got here. Matter of fact, I think it was called Land of the Free, the Home of the Brave, where the deer and the antelope played. Yeah, well, they played, but they were also our food. But we only took what we needed. We didn't just massacre them for, clothing and so on and so forth. We had all those other things identifiable to us also. Now, I'm going to get back to what's important to me. And that is that we have now the ability to know everything that was done on the basis it was done for them to build what they built as government and as a power structure that now controls most of the world, which meant all before that time, most people came to this land and saw abundance and the wherewithal to have a portion of it taken to where they were and where they had nothing. Then they came over here and decided they wanted it all. But they couldn't get it all because we still had the ability to use it for ourselves. Now, let me see how to put this in a manner where it can be understood. First of all, let's start with business. They seem now to have the majority of the finances of business in their control. We call it economics, whatever. But up until now, we have not known the fullness of our abilities to run an economic system that can only depend on us. And it can. We can. They said divide and conquer. We say unite and win. If we placed ourselves in a position to do for ourselves and fully implement every ability we have to meet our own needs and fully invest ourselves in meeting our own needs, we will surpass anything that they have in this country that causes us to meet their needs. To me, that's kind of simple, but it's also predicated on the fact that they run the economy. But you are the ones who produce the economy. For they look at your spending ability and they want to monopolize on it. Monopolize on it yourself, it invariably increases time after time after time of self-investment. I saw that when I looked at the black millionaires, the black billionaires, the black towns, the black cities, and the moguls, the people who made those cities function and flourish from the earliest times till now. They talk about themselves as billionaires and millionaires and, you know, all of those upper elites. But we have far many more who have done far much more with far less than them because we had to get it out the mud, get it from the dirt, make it happen by our own voraciousness, make it happen because that's what we had to do. There ain't none that will say that we were not taken advantage of. Not honestly, not truthfully. They can't say it. They will say they didn't understand us when we told them this or we told them that. And they didn't understand that what we promised we wasn't going to do. But the mistake they made, they wrote it all down. And even though they didn't want us to have the ability to read and understand it, we do now to the fullest extent. And we can make null and void all of those things that they promised to do, didn't do, and now it's coming to a point where we have the ability to say, because you didn't do it, you can't do it. We'll do it for ourselves, and you don't need to even be here. There's going to come a point where we want to say we don't care for you to be here. And they automatically know that. All the other countries on this planet, they look at us like, okay, we're waiting on you guys. You are the ones that's going to guide us into how to reform, and forget. Well, not forget, but forgive. Let's put it like that. Forgive them for ever having thought that they could keep us compliant forever. I I went through a whole lot to see all these things as I see them now. Everything from those in the streets of Hamas saying, no, we ain't going in there and dying for y'all so that y'all can keep on taking from other people what they need to live for themselves. When you have the ability to have an abundance of those things that y'all have locked down and reserved and so on and so forth, y'all can't use them yourself. You give it back to the people who it originally belonged to and let them use it. If they find that that is still of a need for them. You know, in certain areas, we have found so much genius and technological knowledge and ability that those old ways of production, transportation, innovation are kind of becoming obsolete, like antique, like something that was brought out of antiquity and now is being placed back into antiquity because the formation of the newest technologies surpass any of those things that they want to say is um, becoming able to take us back to a form of unpollution. You know, man, boy, I ran across trees, plants that veritably clean and restructure the environment. They don't have widespread knowledge of those things in the public. They can't tell you, they don't tell you here's a tree you can plant that grows 15 feet a year and veritably cleans up the environment. That's also edible. Take away the need for food being distributed here, there, and everywhere because this plant, this tree can grow in multitudes of environments where most nothing else grows. Cleans up water that's been polluted for years in a matter of months. These things, hey, it's becoming our knowledge again. Not that it ever wasn't, but it was repressed or it was put down so much that we almost forgot. But there were certain people we call ancestors, we call elders, we call those people who were there before us and passed it down from lip to ear. Wasn't written down for them to dismantle or discredit or give no validity to. And now they're reemerging so that we ourselves can utilize them. You know, in some places they've made it so that you can't even get a functioning seed to plant to bring about these natural formations of flora that would form the ecosystem that used to be. They've strained them out, they've hybrid them out, they don't reproduce themselves, you know. And we all know that the truest of plants have seeds in themselves to reproduce themselves. You know, what is it with these hybrid things? No seeds in oranges, apples, watermelons, all these things that we generally subsist on. And then the very nature of them has been diminished to the point where they do us no good. Maybe even take something out of us that should be there because it's not in them. Anyway, I'll get back to again what's important to you. I know ownership is. Everybody considers that they own themselves. Nobody tells them what to do. Nobody does this or does that to them. They're not victims of this, that, or the other. Well, that's a great mindset. And that's a great mindset to go for your own self sovereignty, your own desire to accomplish your own goals. But in the unification of those things, how are you seeing everybody reaching that level of self acceptance and a state of being that's beneficial for everybody else? You got to produce something for yourself to have for yourself, true. But that doesn't mean that you have to take somebody else down to make yourself a little better or more provided for. Kind of tells me, okay, if I can plant a garden and my garden produces enough for me and mine and has a little bit more, I can share that. But at the same time, if I can plant a garden, I can also show you how to plant a garden. If I'm next door to you, surely that should be not be a problem for you to learn. And in that learning, then you have the same ability that I do. Provide for yourself and have a little left over to share. When you get to that point, not only are you meeting your own needs, you're meeting the needs of people. And in that same manner, that goes in any and every area that you have any contentions with. Because in taking ownership of self involvement, and self reliability, you discredit the liability others have placed on you, the obligations others have placed on you, and you seek to meet your own obligations. And you always want better for those coming behind you than you have. You always have wanted that. You fought for it in oh so many ways. Even though it looked like you were losing, you never did. Your children always saw the strides that you took. They always saw the sacrifices that you made. They always saw the abuse and and the torture that you went through. You know, even if it looked like self-abuse, because you couldn't quite figure out how to get something done, and it bothered you to no end that you had to kind of numb the pain. But over and over and over, you pressed on, you pressed forward, you kept involving yourself in one thing after another until something worked. Even if it was slowing down, not being so aggressive, and letting everything around you become kind of peaceful and produce for itself what the unity of that peacefulness brought about. Because, you can't throw dirt and plant in it at the same time. Because if you're throwing it and your seeds is in it, it's going somewhere else. And when it starts growing, someone else is going to have advantage of it. This is this is the problem with what we say is occurring in America. We throw dirt all over the world, and then we want to benefit from it. Or I can say it's a foreign agent or a foreign government that wants to benefit from it and claim it as ours. But most other countries don't see that. They don't see us as a people being involved in it. You can say they look at the armies and so on and so forth, but our hearts aren't there. I can say that. Mine never was. One of our greatest leaders, who called himself a conscientious objector, said, "No, y'all not my enemy. My enemy right here in this land, doing against us the same thing they're doing against you. And we may be, oh, I don't even know how to put that. They say it's called inducted. What is it? What is it we used to avoid? Drafted. I don't know if that meant we were wrote in, taken in, and put and objectified as a means of them doing what they wanted to get done. But definitely, I will say this: we had many problems seeing ourselves as involved as they made us be. I don't know of any war that we actively engaged in that we started as a people. I mean, as a people, even against them. We didn't start no wars against them. They started on us. They started in on us and have been there ever since. What's important to me? It's at its end. They're now telling you, look at what we did. We're sorry. Look at what we did. We didn't expect you to ever get to the point where you understood it. We didn't ever think that you would be able to stand up and say, nope, I'm not going to involve myself in your crap. didn't ever expect for us to say, look, you gave us these degrees of education and knowledge, got nothing to do with anything but your business and how you want to run it. And now we understand it better than you because it was ours first. Make it make sense. Make it make sense to the extent that now, how you gonna keep us involved in your crap when we can go make things better for ourselves and don't have to be involved? We got enough people with enough money say, forget y'all. We can do this for ourselves. We can do it with ourselves. Hey, look, I don't have a problem with someone that I know is like me, even if they ain't me. They're being obliging enough to let me be side by side with them. Now, that's giving a large space to someone who thinks that we don't know they're in the picture. Yeah. They look like us, they act like us, but they ain't us because they control way more than us. They control them also. And this goes back from time immemorial when we were only here. When we were only here. Before they were given place as they became, you know. You think I don't know what I'm talking about? You think there ain't a go back to anything that was ever whitewashed through history and see what was whitewashed and why. They no longer wanted to be in the forefront telling you, I'm doing this to you. So they put themselves behind a face, a principle, uh, um, a made up situation. First, they called it blackface, but now it's a made up situation. And they gave them powers and abilities and told them, okay, now y'all go do this in my name, which they also formicated to say, this name ain't us, which gives you your legal fiction, gives you your corporate image, gives you all of those entities that now run things in this world, but they still collect everything from. But they're the puppets doing the collecting. I ain't got to prove that. You can go prove it. Prove it for yourself first. Then you can prove it to all those that doubt it. Because when it all adds up, it all boils down to who's going to still have anything when it's all said and done. First will be last, and last will be first. You add it up, divide it, multiply it, whatever you want to do with it. It's still going to be the same thing. So what's important to you? Where you're standing, what you're standing on, what you'll lay down to, what you'll bow down to, what you kneel to. What's important to you? Fact of the matter is, it's all yours anyway. It's just how much you're going to get in your hands and what you're going to do with it when it's in your hands. Many, many ways it's coming about, but it's only going to be one situation when it all occurs, an ending to a new beginning. What are you causing to end? And what are you going to begin? Everybody done went through some sort of action of that nature in their life over decades and years of time. They can say what happened in the past. They can say what changed as increments of time occurred. They can say what now is, and they can say what they hope for in their future. But what's important to you? I'm going to leave you with that thought. I'm going to leave you with that challenge, because that's what you have to make occur, happen, and be what's important.